Okay, where we're at.
Oh,
Okay.
Everyone's
Should we start down the front
Yep.
with
Johnny.
Johnny? And then who had their hand up the back? Yes, and who on this side had their hand up? Anyone different?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe we'll go right the way to the back after Johnny.
Yeah, right away. Yep. Far away.
So the question about spirit influence.
Yep.
And I remember you said to me last year that sort of like replaced my connection with my parents to connection with spirits.
Yep.
And I was wondering if you had any more to say, like how to reconnect back with my parents and break that.
With God, you mean, or with your parents on earth?
Well, whatever I need to do.
Fair enough.
How do you feel like you've gone with it, John, since we've seen you?
Yeah.
Have you done any work on it?
Yeah, I tried to, but yeah, it's been a bit difficult, a bit up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I've been thinking I've been doing some progress, but I haven't, and sometimes I think I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you get from the spirits that you felt you'd never got from your mum and dad in this life? Like, so in the life on earth, what were your mum and dad like?
Well, my dad was could be quite pushy
Yeah.
and hard.
Yep. And your mum?
And my mom, I think, could be like a bit demanding, wanting things from me,
Yeah.
like wanting me to give her feelings.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So sort of wanting you to give her feelings rather than she give you feelings.
yeah.
Now, if you think about that for a moment, Johnny, and just think, well, what does that feel like for a child growing up in that environment?
Feeling like I don't have a worth.
Don't have a
Worth.
worth, yep. Do you have friends? Are your mum and dad friends?
If they're friends with each other?
No,
What do you mean?
with you.
No.
No, they don't feel friendly, do they? It's like, it feels more like a constant demand or attack.
Yeah.
Attack from dad, demand from mum,
Yeah.
constant. So as a child, you know, if you can see, a lot of you are quite divorced from your true feelings that you had as a child. But so what I'm trying to do is help you imagine as an adult now that you are, like what it would be like as a little child in this environment where dad's sort of at you and mum's demanding of you.
Mm.
What would be your tendency to do you think?
Can you repeat that?
What would be your tendency in that environment, inside of yourself? What would you feel like doing in that environment where mum's demanding, dad's attacking? You really don't have, no one's really friendly with you in the family. What do you feel like doing?
Like break away from it?
Yeah, and withdrawing, don't you?
Yeah, withdraw.
Like withdrawal, and that's what you've done, isn't it? You can feel yourself sort of like withdrawing from people.
Yeah.
But also then that makes you feel lonely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. So you grew up feeling quite lonely.
Yeah.
Yep. So now you enter sort of the teenage years and you know, like you're quite alone and feel quite lonely. Mum and dad are not, really attractive to spend much time around. They're difficult to be with, have a lot of demands on you or pushy with you. So now you're looking for some external way of overcoming that, right?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of feeling the pain of it, rather than sort of just having some good cries that that's what they're like.
Yeah.
So what does that then cause you to do? It causes you to sort of long for some better companionship, right?
Yeah.
But in your case, you didn't really feel you had any at school either.
No.
So what's going to happen under those circumstances. Can you see, if you didn't believe in a spirit world at all, can you see you'd basically fundamentally just feel alone all the time, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a feeling you've had a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's spirits in the spirit world that want to sort of help you with your life. And one way they feel they can help you is by sort of attaching to you and giving you the things that your mum and dad never gave you.
Mm-hmm.
So mum and dad never gave you any real acknowledgement. Dad was bossy, mum was demanding, never gave you any real feelings that you're worth anything or good. So now you're going to be very open to spirits entering that addiction with you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, good.
Yeah.
No. So when we met you, you had quite a number of spirits around you who were trying to prove they were better than men, because Dad was obviously quite critical of you.
Yep.
You're in a lot of competition with men.
Or at least just as good as Dad,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of show you're clever, show you've got things sorted out. Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of that wasn't your feelings, but they were feelings coming through you from those spirits.
Because your feelings are really quite lonely and feeling
Not that clever.
not that good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to help you feel good about yourself without you having to cry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So on the woman's side, what are the women? Spirit women. Well, they're going to be very tempted, in your case, to repress you, to because there's an openness there to repression from your mother, and the spirit women are going to be, if there are any women around you at any time in spirit, they're going to wanting to sort of push you around a bit and get you to do the things they want you to do. So, can you see that when we talk about God being your father,
Yeah.
you're probably going to think of your dad, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about God being your mother,
Yeah.
you're going to think about your mum, aren't you?
Yeah.
And both of them not that good.
No.
So can you see the desire inside of you to actually connect with God is already going to be to some degree limited by the fact that you're already perceiving God to be like your dad or your mum.
Yeah.
And it's hard for you to imagine that God would be any different,
Yeah.
given the way in which you were raised,
Yeah.
in your childhood. Now, the spirits that are going to then be attracted to you under those circumstances are going to be either ones who try to negate your feelings, like the men trying to make you feel like you're just as good as your dad, right? Or they're going to be ones like the spirits, some of the women's spirits that sometimes are around you, who are trying to demand things of you, get you to do things they want you to do.
You'll be a good guy, you'll be a worthy guy if you give us more energy.
Yep.
Mhm.
And in that circumstance, can you see that it's going to be very hard for you to recognise what God's trying to do with you while you've got these spirits trying to do these things with you. So an example of that is God wants you to feel your sadness. But when these men spirits are around you, they're trying to stop you from feeling your sadness.
Mm.
So now it's very hard for you to feel sadness, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very difficult for you to connect to any sadness,
Yeah.
even though you feel quite lonely.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to even just have a cry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because these spirits are there, and fundamentally it's because your own feelings are there saying, I don't really want to go to that grief. I don't want to have that grief.
Yeah.
And like I said to Courtney earlier, there's a level of anger about having to feel grief about that. The feeling in you is one of injustice. You sort of go, well, Dad's been like that. Well, he should have to feel the grief, not me. Like he's the one who's done the damage, so he's the one that should have to feel these things, not me. I should be able to like avoid it somehow, right? And this causes the sort of attachment of spirits to you. So when we met you, there were 3 male spirits attached to you, 1 woman, and all of them had a tendency to. You had a tendency to feel like when they gave you a feeling that was God's feelings for you. Yeah. And it's not, because God's trying to help you feel the opposite feelings. Because God knows that unless you feel the grief you have about your childhood, that you're probably not going to make much progress in terms of your relationship with God. Yeah. So that's what God's trying to help you do, but you're trying to avoid it, and the spirits with you are trying to help you avoid it. So the question then becomes, what do you do with that dynamic?
Try to see the truth of that.
Well, the key, I think, firstly, is to seek to know why you don't want to cry. Like, what's going on there? You know you feel sad, but you don't want to feel sad, like actually go through the sadness. Yeah, and there's a couple of other young men in the audience the same. You're in a similar state, aren't you, where you know you're really, really sad, but you don't want to feel your sadness. You feel angry about feeling your sadness. Fundamentally, that's what that is. And it's the same for yourself. You know you're sad, but you don't feel sad. You don't actually go through the expression of sadness much. And you've got to learn to. And also you'll find that it's actually quite good. Like, you'll feel connection to yourself, you know? Yeah. And also, in the process of doing that, you'll relieve yourself of the burden of the spirits that are trying to help you feel the opposite thing. Now, once you're relieved of that burden, what you're afraid of is that you'll now be alone again. And you won't really. Like, God's still wanting the relationship with you. But this is the kind of feeling you can take to God then. But while you're wanting to avoid the sadness of your childhood, it's going to be very hard to then connect to a God who wants you to feel the sadness of your childhood. He wants Johnny to say, you've had a hard time of it in your childhood. He wants you to understand you have. Does that make sense? So you can feel about it. Like, you've had a hard time. It's not an obvious hard time. That's the difficulty you're having. See, many people sort of have abusive childhoods, or where they have violent abuse or sexual abuse, or some other trauma. You look at them and you go, they had a hard childhood. But when you look at your own childhood, you're going, oh, mine wasn't that bad. You're convincing yourself it wasn't that bad. But actually, this kind of a childhood is sometimes the worst kind of a childhood to address, because you're not able to easily understand as a child what is wrong. Do you understand what I mean by that? As a child, when there's a lot of projected emotions without there being a lot of action about those emotions, the child often enters a state of deep confusion about why it feels so bad about itself. And you've sort of got to stop telling yourself that it was better than it was. Does that make sense, Johnny? And you have a habit of telling yourself it's better than it was. You sort of think it wasn't that bad compared to other people. That makes sense? If you can, be honest with yourself, that's going to help you a lot. Because a lot of times you connect with emotion once you get honest with yourself. But at this stage, it's like you're trying to be dishonest with yourself by saying, well, my childhood wasn't that bad. And then you go down the track of, I still feel alone though, and I still feel lonely, and I still feel bad about myself. Well, why? It's sort of now, by doing this, you sort of don't have any answers as to why. And the problem with that is that now that you don't have any answers, what are you going to do? How are you going to heal it? If you don't think there's too much of a problem, and you have no answers as to why you feel like you'd feel, because you feel quite bad about yourself sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And you don't understand, you're not telling yourself the truth about it, then it's going to be really hard to feel it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Hmm. So can I pray to God to show me how bad it was, on that truth?
Yeah, and also allow yourself, a part of your prayer is allowing yourself to ponder, not about their physical actions, your mum and dad's physical actions,
Yeah.
but more about the feelings you feel from them.
Yeah.
You know, what kind, because the child is feeling the feelings, they're not just assessing action. The child, for the most part, is assessing only feelings, actually.
Mm.
So like your mum and dad might not ever smack you, like ever hit you,
Yeah.
and yet have terrible feelings towards you. The child feels those feelings, but then as an adult, when you're growing up, you get taught, it was only a bad childhood if you got hit, or it was only a bad childhood if something physical happened, you know. And so then you're taught that your feelings are really not a part of the assessment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you've been taught that your feelings are not a part of the assessment, and your mum and dad have faked their feelings a lot. They fake their feelings a lot. So they want to believe they're nice when they're not,
Mm.
you know, and this makes it even more difficult as a child. So these are the kind of things you need to let yourself feel about.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Something you might be able to ask your spirit guides to help you with is you know a bit about the soul and the spirit body and the physical body now. So if you try to visualize yourself in your spirit body form and your parents in their spirit body form, what do you feel coming towards you? What does that feel like? It takes you away from the actions and the everyday. But if you're a feeling being and they're a feeling being, what does the feelings come between the two of you feel like, and how do you feel in that dynamic? Sometimes
what does it feel like in their company? What feelings are coming at you? But also then, what do you feel about yourself because of what feelings are coming at you?
How you something that's going to be very important to do is to validate your own feelings.
Mm.
To not wait for anyone else to acknowledge them, because your parents are not going to acknowledge what it was like for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Until they're after in the spirit world sometimes.
That's why they faked so many things, because they want to believe, no, we don't have feelings like that. We have different feelings. And this is why it's been confusing for you. But if you can start, and your spirit friends will help you, and God will help you with that process to actually, okay, I'm just going to visualize what that feels like. And sometimes that can help you to start to tune into the feelings that are coming towards you, more than focusing on actions or words and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you do have a spirit helper who's trying to help you do this,
Mm.
trying to help you, like, just be honest about the feelings that you felt from your parents, you know, like
Mm.
in your childhood. I'd focus on that if I was in your position. And be really honest with yourself about what those feelings were like and how you felt as a result.
Mm.
Yeah. And that will help you also then disconnect from the spirits who are trying to suppress you from having those feelings as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Because at the moment, the spirits who are trying to suppress you are really trying to nurse you. They're trying to say, Johnny, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to go through it. And to some degree, you sort of feel that. I shouldn't have to either.
Mm.
So you're in agreement. But if you could just be more honest with yourself about what you actually had
Mhm.
as a child, why it was there, and why you now feel as an adult the way you feel.
Mhm.
At the moment, it's almost like you're looking for an answer when there's no reality about your childhood situation. You know, you're not being truthful about your own childhood situation.
Mm.
And then you're looking for an answer outside of that, like it's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
You've been thinking to some degree that something wrong with my personality or something wrong with my nature or something.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's to do with these childhood things.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all makes sense to you, Johnny?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
And the influence of the spirits around you, it is different from when we first met you. So you have made some progress. It probably means you feel slightly worse, but that's good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're probably going to feel a bit worse before you feel better, to be honest,
Yeah.
in the sense that you do have some grief to feel about how your childhood was. And once you start feeling it initially, you have a very strong tendency to blame yourself for how you feel about yourself,
Yeah.
rather than to associate the true blame about how towards how you were treated as a child as to why you feel about yourself the way you do.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
The key is to, attribute the responsibility of how you feel. It's not just like it's only yours in the sense you haven't released it yet. So that's your responsibility. Your part of it is that you haven't chosen to release it yet.
Mm.
But to release something, you've got to face up to what it is.
Mm.
And that's where you've struggled
Mm.
because of all of this sort of disconnect from reality in your childhood about how bad it was with your mum and dad, living with them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just a little person coming into the world and then having all this crap coming at you. It's tough.
Mm.
Yeah, it's tough. And made even tougher by the fact that the parents won't own up to it
Yeah.
and society doesn't own up to it being bad. The average person in society goes, "Oh, that wasn't that bad. What's wrong with you? Grow up," or and you're quite a sensitive person, like sensitive soul, so you would feel it more than the normal person would.
Yeah.
When I say sensitive, one of the reasons why your soul attracted your parents was your sensitivity would have, if they were open, your sensitivity would have helped them open up emotionally.
Yeah.
But they chose to be harder with you
Mm.
rather than softer. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Yeah. But if they had responded the way God intended, they would have gotten softer because of you. But the way they responded instead was just to get harder with you so that they could control their feelings more. Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to go right the way to the back with that microphone. Just,
Straight back.
the last row. No.
Thank you. I heard you mention about working
Just
with...
hold the mic up.
Closer,
yes.
so we can hear you
Is that
better.
better, yes?
Yeah.
I heard you mention a while ago there's some family in Tasmania and they had autistic children and they're working to release their emotions and the children were benefiting.
They're no longer doing that.
Oh, okay.
No.
No.
I just wanted
What was
to...
your question about that?
Sure, I'm autistic. I just wanted to know as an adult what I can do to help myself and feel more integrated into society, not alone, so separate.
Yep.
Yep. There's a lot of people we've met who come to Divine Truth seminars that have what the average person would call autism or Asperger's. The main reason why it's there is because of the lack of connectivity to emotion, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Now, that always occurs in childhood. Parents always have forced the child in some way to be disconnected from itself. Now, there's two types of parents that do that. There's the type of parent that sort of suck the life out of the child. They want the child for themselves. They want the child to validate themselves, So you see a lot of parents nowadays, and this is why Asperger's and autism is becoming more prevalent, is because there's a lot of parents now that are only having their children for the sake of the parent's emotion and no other reason, right? They don't have a feeling of giving to the child. They don't have a feeling of letting the child have its feelings. They only want the child to feel what the parent feels. So the parents have a very strong desire like that. So firstly, your parents must have been like that.
Yes.
Okay? So the way that a person like yourself handles that is by distancing yourself from your own emotions. You
Okay.
follow?
Yes. I do.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a purposeful choice
It's a way to manage the
to
situation.
manage the parents' projections.
Yes. Understand. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, then usually in childhood, the parents are now criticising the child, saying, "Oh, the child's so emotionally disconnected from everyone now." So now the parents are blaming the child for the parent's own behaviour,
Okay.
which makes it even worse,
Mm-hmm.
because now the child is getting blamed for having a condition that the parents didn't create, when the parents actually created it.
Mm.
Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
It does. Yes.
So the parents don't want to believe they've created it,
Mm-hmm.
and so they disclaim all responsibility for creating that condition, and now they've got to find a disease or a problem that they can label that blames the child for that condition.
Mm.
You follow me?
Okay. Yes.
Yep. So this is the general pattern of a person who has these so-called syndromes, like Asperger's and autism.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do about it as an adult, was your question.
Yes.
Yeah. You can see fundamentally, partly it is undoing the thing that was done to you.
Right.
So by the time you were shortly into your childhood, by this stage your parents had done so much of this to you to blame you for their, sucking and demanding treatment of you,
Mm-hmm.
that you naturally went away, you naturally withdrew from them, but you also withdrew from your own feelings.
Mm. Mm.
So the key now is to reconnect with your own feelings about what it felt like being a child with those parents.
Okay.
Does that make
It,
sense?
it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can pray a lot about this, because God will help you do this in terms of help connect you with your feelings about it. So the key for you is to, firstly, you need to see that your condition, as you call it,
Mm-hmm.
is really a condition created by your parents' behaviour towards you,
Okay.
their feelings and their emotions and their actions. Because not only did they have feelings and emotions, but when you responded in the way you did, they then took actions to blame you for their feelings. And
That's true. Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So fundamentally, they're saying you have the problem,
Yes.
not them.
Yes.
That's their underlying
Yeah.
motivation to believe that they've been good parents.
Yeah.
You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the one who's, for some reason, got this condition. So it's very important for you to face the truth that actually no, their emotions were the beginning of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, similar to what we were saying to Johnny in a way, but
Right.
it's even stronger demand in your case by the parents to believe that they're all fine and that you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
When really what's going on is that you were just withdrawing. You did two things as a child. You withdrew from them,
Yes.
which is a natural thing to do
Yeah.
if somebody's oppressing you.
Of course. Yeah.
So you withdrew from them,
Mm.
but you also learned to withdraw from your feelings about that.
Right. Yeah.
So now what your goal is to reconnect with your feelings about that, about what they did.
Okay.
You follow?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
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 If you
Yeah.
can reconnect with the feelings about what they did, then you'll connect yourself to yourself and your feelings, your soul, and you'll let yourself have those feelings. And that will have a great help to your healing of the condition.
So it's really about forgiveness.
Sorry?
Forgiveness.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what the end result
Result.
will be.
Okay, yeah.
But there's two things to forgive here. Firstly, there's forgiving yourself for the withdrawal, you could say,
Yeah.
or you could say repenting for the withdrawal.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that means just allowing yourself to go, I don't want to be this withdrawn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to reconnect with myself. But then also, secondly, to understand that the reason why you're so disconnected is because mum and dad had so much oppressive emotions towards you, firstly, and then secondly, they blamed you for your response to that.
Yeah.
They did both of those things. They had all this oppression, but then on top of that, they then blamed you for the oppression, the response that you had for their oppression.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
And the key is to face the truth of that. Now, there's, you've got some lovely spirit friends who want to help you do that. So,
Okay.
yep,
Okay.
you're actually quite well cared for spiritually.
Yep.
So the key for you is just to sort of focus on the reality, that is the reality.
Okay.
And this is why you feel disconnected from everybody now. Do you know what I mean? Because the tendency is to go, well, everybody's oppressive. And to be frank,
A lot of people are.
most people are. You know what I mean? And so it's sort of like the tendency now to go, everyone's oppressive. I'm protecting myself
Yeah.
from everybody now
Yeah.
by not having my feelings about it all. Yeah.
Right.
And one of the, a lot of people who have autism as adults actually become quite angry with others, but you don't have that problem.
No.
You
No.
don't.
No.
So I think you're going to do well in this.
I think so, yeah.
I'm sorry, I've just forgotten your name.
John.
John.
Yeah.
John, when you think about emotion, how do you have any response to that?
I guess kind of distant, really.
Yeah.
It's just
About
still
it. About
off,
yeah. Yeah.
away.
Connection. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Bit neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you do as Jesus said, to really focus on
Yeah.
oppression is probably going to be one of the first feelings that you feel. It is feeling oppressed, which is not necessarily a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But
But the thing is to grieve the oppression rather than shut
Sure.
yourself down.
It
Yeah.
does fit. I understand completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've chosen to shut yourself down
Yes.
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
grieve the oppression.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've
Right.
you've basically said, I'm to blame
Mm.
for the way I feel,
Mm.
rather than going, no, my feelings are actually accurate.
Yeah.
Yep. Your feelings about the oppression coming from others is are quite accurate, actually, and but you've been told ever since your childhood that they're not accurate. That they're not. It's not accurate to feel the way you feel, and so you've learnt to distance yourself from your own feelings, and now it's a matter of trying to get in reconnection with your own feelings about it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good luck with that, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I look forward
Yeah.
to hearing how it
I'm
goes.
so glad I came.
Sorry.
I'm so glad I came.
Yeah, I reckon you're going to be able to do it quite well, because as Mary pointed out, most people we meet with autism when they're adults are already quite angry as well about feelings. And so you don't really feel like that to us, so you won't have to bear that additional layer to go through. And most people who are autistic or who have Asperger's do have that layer of anger on top, and they want to stay distant to that as well.
Yeah.
So there's sort of like a double layer of things they're trying to stay distant to.
I do feel quite fearful, though. Is that not adding to the perhaps the anger?
Well, you are quite afraid, but that's
Yeah.
part of the, your child. Again, like I was saying to John, your childhood, Johnny here, your childhood wasn't good, right? And you, I think, to some degree now have an understanding that it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a good start. The key now is to allow yourself to feel what you did to manage it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's something you've done to yourself now,
Yeah, okay.
shutting yourself down. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
So they did it to you, and then they blamed you, and this double action of doing it to you and then blaming you caused you to distance even further.
Mm.
Yep. And now, so you've got to feel, firstly, they did it to me, and also they blamed me. And eventually what they did is blame the condition.
Got it.
So they told themselves they weren't blaming you by telling themselves you had a condition. Do
Yeah.
you follow me?
I do, yes.
And they weren't going to blame themselves.
No.
So now they've got something they can blame. They can blame a condition rather than you or them, they thinking. But actually, they did blame you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they wanted it to be a condition so they couldn't face what they're doing emotionally.
Yeah.
Most parents have hardly any idea about how harsh their emotions are going towards children. That they're like intensely harsh, you know.
Yeah.
And a person who's sensitive, like yourself, is going to withdraw very rapidly when they're that harsh, you know.
Could I ask one more question?
Yep.
Why is an autistic person designed? Are they designed more sensitively? Is that the case, or is it?
Well, there's certain types of personalities which we could call more gentle types of personalities, of which you're one, that are attracted to parents who are oppressive. The law has designed it so that the parents attract the child, which hopefully the parents then look at themselves more reflectively.
Right.
So generally, a person who's sort of like a softer, gentler person is generally attracted to harsher parents, so that the parents can see the damage they're doing through their harshness.
It's the law. It's not you.
It's not the law.
attracting.
It's not.
the
It's
law,
the law.
operating.
Yeah.
And if
It's
for
God's
those
law
of you-
operating to help them
to help
and
the parent.
yeah, and
um,
in other words, they could learn from you.
Yes.
Yep.
And those of you who've had children would feel that that's quite often a heart-opening process, and at least initially.
It's usually it's the most heart-opening process in a person's entire life,
Yeah.
having a child.
And so God's
Usually.
laws are saying, well, this is a moment, this is a time where you might be sensitive to how your condition is. Here is a child that will expose it to the most degree.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, a lot of parents don't choose to take that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they don't respond, and in fact treat the child worse, as they have done you, and then blame the child for the child's response, which they have done to you. And that then causes often the person who's quite sensitive to withdraw. You know, the person who's soft and gentle
Sure.
doesn't want to get all violent
Or rebellious.
or rebellious.
No.
They just,
No.
there's no other choice but to withdraw. Yeah,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's affected your whole life, right?
It has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep. And it's sad like that. You know, many of our childhood experiences have affected our entire life and the decisions we've made. I'm still right now dealing with stuff that happened in my childhood. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to David?
Yep.
First, I just want to thank you for the feedback for John and Johnny, because I feel like that a lot of that applies to me as well.
Yes.
So thank you. My question was, once you receive God's love, can you lose it or like release it, like with sin?
No, you can't. Even if you sin afterwards, which you can choose to do because you've got free will still, right? You can't lose the love. Once the love is in your soul, it's there for good. That's it.
And even if you work against it, you can't lose it. For a
Yeah,
long time.
that's right. You can work against it,
But you still can't lose
but
it.
you can't lose it.
All right.
It's there for good. Yeah, you can work against it. Some people work against it fairly hard, like, and some people we've seen some people even become more harsh afterwards by their harsh treatment of themselves, trying to work against it even. But that's a rare occurrence, yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And what's the time, guys? Yeah, we need to look
4:15.
at packing up now.
Yeah.
So one of the main reasons why we wanted to have today with you, like the walk today as well, was just so you could start seeing love when you're in your day-to-day life, you know what I mean? Hopefully today's had that effect, where you can start to see some of that, and hopefully that will sort of enable you in your future to be a bit more circumspect, to be a bit more self-analytical maybe, and just go, here I am being confused about what love would do in this situation. And many of you are confused about what love would do. And your addictions frequently make you confused on purpose. You know what I mean? Like you frequently have addictions in one direction, another addiction in a different direction, another different addiction in a different direction. And when all the addictions start coming up all in a situation, it's like, which one do I do? You know, like, and you just go from one to the other without much thought. And it's good for you to see that happening. And hopefully today, out in the walk, you could see some of those things happening. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been lovely to have time with you guys.
Yeah.
I know we didn't have time with you on the walk necessarily, but we've had all this time with you today. It's really nice.
Yeah, at home we get lots of time to spend with, different people because we're working every day together. You get to see a person more in a normal sort of environment, where your work environment, you're doing things, you're trying to accomplish things. And so generally you get to know each other much better than just having a seminar like with you guys and then not seeing you for a year or more, Yeah. And so we hope that more and more you can relax in these environments. But we know it's tough too because, under normal circumstances, very few of you would probably spend any time with the others of you here. You know what I mean? We're all different people, drawn to divine truth from all different walks of life. And so many times you don't really get to know all these people and what they do and their life and their situation and circumstance. Mary and I get to know
all of you
to a degree.
It's such a privilege.
Mary's got
a
great memory for names and faces and everything. I haven't so much. But I get to feel your changes as well. So some of you, when we go from year to year, I go, is that the same person as last year to Mary? Like, Mary says...
That's always a good sign if Jesus doesn't recognise you from the last time you met. This means you've made a change.
They feel a lot different to me. So.
Sometimes I say, no, that's so-and-so. Yeah.
Either that or I'm getting Alzheimer's, one of the two.
If you are, what hope is there for the rest of us? Yeah.
But we might see some of you Saturday. We've got a few things to organise Saturday with Anna, and so we're going to be doing that Saturday. We've got to offload a whole heap of equipment now, and then get ready for our next trip, which is next Monday.
To Portugal. Yeah. And we might see some of you there too.
Yeah. Who of you are going to be there? Yeah, so a few of you we'll see there. Hey? Yeah.
If we don't see you until next year or a couple of years' time.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question about if we are in Europe only next year, would some of you come? Yeah. Okay. So fair few of you.
Fair few.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. So between now and when we see you next, we just really encourage you in your prayer, in starting that relationship with God. And there's no need to judge where you're at in that relationship. Everyone is starting, I always call it, it's a ground zero moment, When you really start with God, you start to realise, well, I'm a long way from God, actually. And that's a part of it. It's a part of the process. And know that the more you get real in that relationship, the more capacity you're going to have to become happier, to know yourself more, which is what God really wants, for you to be yourself in the world, but also to love others. You're going to have more and more capacity to feel close to others. A lot of us think, loving others, that's going to be more work. But actually, it makes you feel close. It's your joy. When you truly love another, it's a joy for yourself. So, yeah.
And also you feel like real, like a real person.
Yes, a real life person.
Rather than sort of a robot going around clueless about everything.
About yourself, about other people, what's really going on. Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits, and we'd like you to experience some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good day.
Kind of like AI, full of data that we think we know,
You want to say it into the mic?
Yeah, just say it into the...
so everyone can hear.
I feel like we're like my facade, like AI. It's sort of full of data with a few emojis stuck on top, but no heart.
Yes, yeah.
A few emojis on top, yeah. The emojis are a strange thing, aren't
Yeah.
they?
No, I'm not a fan, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more and
Right.
more people are struggling to even be able to communicate their feelings, let alone have them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice that a lot when we, even in young children now, struggling to even have emotion except for rage.
Yeah.
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 Rage and distracted.
Distraction,
Mm.
addiction and rage.
Yeah.
And a lot of 3-year-olds are just cycling between addiction and rage, addiction and rage, addiction and rage.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and hardly living a life at all, Quite often you try to feel them and you can't even, you can barely feel their actual nature or personality because there's so many spirits involved in it already and so much addiction they're in that you can't even feel hardly what their real nature is.
It is such a joy for Jesus and I when we meet children like that, and we talk to the parents a bit about their personal addictions and why they're allowing addictions to develop in their children. And some of them make changes, and then, in a month or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how old the child is, sometimes we get to feel the child for the first time. And
yeah.
that is such
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
It's really
It's
interesting
really
when that
beautiful.
happens because you get to see how much the addictions suppress the nature.
And you
Yeah.
feel the child experiencing the world around them for the first time. When they're in addiction, they're not experiencing, they're not learning.
Yeah. So that's when we see you guys in addiction, we go, you're not experiencing your real nature yet. And when you're in addiction, the people around you can't experience you.
Yeah.
They can't
Feel you.
feel you.
Yeah.
They just feel your demands, which are your addictions, right? So that's all they feel. They don't feel the real you. So they're not even able to recognize what your personality is like and what your nature is like. And when you get rid of your addictions, wow, the personality and the nature starts coming out, We really love that we're at home when we've spent a bit more time with people, obviously they've had that benefit and over time they've gotten rid of more of their addictions and we start seeing what their personality's really like, and it's really amazing sometimes. Like the person who was really quiet and suppressed and all this bubbly stuff coming out of them, and you get to see the real self, and it's such a joy to get to know people once they get rid of their addictions. Yeah. But we also, on the other hand, find the addictions pretty oppressive at times. Yeah. Which I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you can feel an addiction in the other that doesn't match yours, how does it feel? It's just like, whoa, this person's like hard to handle. Yeah.
And so you got to get better at feeling when it matches yours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's much harder when it matches yours.
Yeah, particularly if they're a partner or a friend or someone. Yeah, very difficult then because you've got a close alignment with each other in terms of your addiction then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good to get to know you guys a bit better.
It's really nice.
For some of you, it's the second time we've met you, or third even, some of you,
Yeah.
third or fourth. And it's good we get to know more of you, get to see more of you that way and know more of you. This is one of the things why we would like to come back, get to know more people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Nelly, yeah, sure.
If we just pass
the
run
mic
or
forward,
run the
thanks.
mic up?
Yeah, just bring it forward.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
I just wanted in somehow to honor you because this morning reading the budget messages, I somehow got a little glimpse of the gift that you are giving, not just this group, but all spirits that have ever existed to now.
Yeah.
Because it is like only 2,000 years ago, if you haven't search for God's love. And we are talking, God's love, like it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is available to everyone right now because only 2,000 years ago
Yeah,
you take that step.
yeah.
So it is.
But I'm
it
sure
was
if I
like
didn't, God would have had someone else in line to do it.
probably, I
At
don't
some
know.
point.
It's like wow. It's like
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for all of it.
Thanks, Nelly. Yeah, yeah. We yeah, so. Yeah, one day I hope that you'll be able to see where we live, like where we came from, and once, yeah, in the spirit world where we came from, and before we came back again, and then you'll have maybe some appreciation for how much we love you. Yeah, because it's. Life here is strange, isn't it, on earth, I think. I think in my first incarnation I didn't think so much, maybe. Although the more I connected with God, the more strange I felt it was. Because just the unlovingness of the entire place is, when you start progressing towards God, you don't really understand how unloving the place is. How unloving Earth is at the moment. But the more you progress, the more you grasp how unloving everything is, And in some ways it surprises me that the average person can handle it, how unloving it is, And yet you look at it, all of you are handling it. And it's a bit sad that we have to handle it, right, how unloving it is. And I sort of feel that one of the things we need to do is to learn how to sort of not handle it as well. We need to just learn how to grieve about how bad it is rather than sort of handling it, coping it, surviving it as well as we do, It's almost like we all need to have a breakdown and not be able to handle it so good. Not be able to handle this environment so well. Because when I look at the harshness of the environment and compare it to different places I've been, it's such a harsh environment. And you can sort of appreciate, when you see when you come face to face with how harsh the environment is, you can begin to understand yourself better as to why it is you're struggling so much with your soul, and this can be very helpful for your future progression to become more sensitized to how things are rather than just stoically trying to live with it, Here in England, you have that stoic injury, don't you? It's like, it's a big thing here in England in particular. So not so much maybe South America, where you come from, Nelly, but here in England, there's a very strong stoic. If there's a bit of hardship, you put up with it, and if you can put up with it for 10 minutes, then go for 15. And go for, there's sort of
almost
this
holiness. If the more you can suffer, the more holy you are. Is almost the implication, isn't it?
It's like that church we went into this morning, where we all gathered. Did you sit in the pew? Like I sat in one of the pews because I like to do that because I want to see how harsh it was made, and the pew was sort of like, you were sitting there and the back of the chair was almost leaning forward, so it was sort of like that, but you had to sit straight because your bum would have hurt otherwise. And then you've got these things that you're meant to kneel on, wooden slat, no padding, nothing. That's for when you were praying, God wants to make it as hard as possible for you and make you as uncomfortable as you possibly can be in order for you to connect to God. That's the implication. And the whole place was just so uncomfortable to learn anything, You imagine the minister up there giving his sermon and all of those people sitting in this pew, you know, like this, waiting to go home, and you can sort of understand the feeling is God's going to be hard with you. God's going to be, you know, harsh on you. You know, it's not softened to anything. It's harden up. And most of you have been taught to harden up. And most of you now even get to the stage where you want you to harden up, even like rather than soften up. And we'd just like to encourage you to allow yourself to soften up rather than to harden up. The softer you become, the more sensitive you will be to love.
When it's present and when it's absent.
Yep. You'll be able to measure that better when you're softer. So don't get addicted to this sort of, I'm going to stoically handle life, you know. I don't know, like it's like the mud thing you want to go through on Saturday, Tim, you know. Tim's doing this mud hike
run.
or mud run. Yeah, and, you know, it's what? You know, outside today, 17 degrees Celsius.
That's the top.
And he's going to be going through water and all sorts of things.
Mud
and water.
Rivers and...
Why do you do such things? It's because there's this underlying feeling in most people that got to prove themselves by having a harsh thing, put themselves through a hard thing.
Overcome it.
And overcome it. And that's how you prove your mettle and your worth. So I would recommend not to do that.
Why does it feel fun in my head? Is it just the addiction?
Sorry.
Why does that feel so fun in my head? Like,
Well, you're proving yourself with your father.
is that what it? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you think of all the extreme sports you've done. They're all there to prove how good you are, prove yourself to somebody. And you're not proving yourself to God, but you are proving yourself, you're sort of proving to yourself that you're better than Dad. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And, you know, that creates a lot of harshness towards oneself. You know, I see that with the way, you know, most houses we've visited and stayed in here in England, the beds are uncomfortable. Why? Most of them, why do you have to make every bed uncomfortable? Can't you make one soft and like a cloud? You know, my idea of sleeping is on a cloud, like not on a rock. And yet most of the beds here seem to be made that way, unless you can pay lots of money for it. It's made that way. And it's the same with the buildings, even the way they've been designed. They're all very hard, like
austere.
Yeah. You can see the psyche is there. And that's something, if you come from England, it's something you're going to have to break through, that psyche of stoic, hard, push.
Stiff upper lip, we call it.
So stiff upper lip, yeah. You know, we handle things. You know, the reality is on your island, you have handled a lot of things in the past. You know, the Roman army conquered you, 2,000 more years ago, and then you've had other nations try to conquer you as well in that time, you know, in the Second World War, of course, in the First World War, the same thing occurring. And most people have developed this quite harsh attitude to life, you know. That's something that does need to be addressed if you want to be a soft person connected to love. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mark, you wanted to?
And I wanted to say something.
So when you were saying there about being good to yourself,
Yep.
so I'm going to say, does that apply as well to having delicious food?
Well, a lot of times you're having what you call delicious food is being hard on yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy to have my dinner, my main meal, and then I said, "Ooh, a dessert would be really nice."
Yeah.
And I've been asking myself, am I in addiction? And then I say, well,
Yep.
I'm not angry if I don't have it, but I really would like it. And it really confuses me. And
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to.
You could do an experiment, Margaret, and say, I'm not going to have any for a month, and see if you might get a little bit angry then.
Okay, okay, yeah, okay. And maybe I had that idea, and I was, let's say, I'm hoping you'd say different. So yeah, I thought of that.
Yeah, a lot of people have this view with their addictions that
Yeah.
are loving themselves by continuing their
Indulging.
addictions. That's not what we're suggesting.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So some people have an addiction to do the kind of things that extreme things like Tim does.
Yeah.
Other people have the addiction to do the opposite, or comfort all the time. You've got to learn to recognise what's an addiction and what isn't, right?
Yeah.
You will find in your future that the more things you have with sugar in it, the worse you feel.
Okay. Yeah.
Just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Except if the sugar is naturally occurring. In other words, like a fruit.
So so fruit. Yeah, I'm noticing when I'm here, I'm happy, delighted with fruit, and it feels so good. And then I said, well, am I fooling myself because it's lovely and sweet? So is that satisfying my addiction?
Well, in
But
the spirit
fruit is
world,
good.
mostly we eat fruit and nuts. Pretty much that's it. There's no cooked food.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
carbohydrates, as you call them,
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
usually eaten in anywhere in the celestial spheres anyway.
Yeah.
The main reason why is because we like the smell. And in the spirit world, that's how you eat, actually, through the smell. You don't actually chew on things. Your digestion is through smell.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at the Paget messages. In the Paget messages, one time Ned asked Helen what she ate, and she said, fruit and nuts.
Yeah, I went to that. Yeah.
And then when I look at that, even right back at the beginning, when I first saw the Paget messages here on Earth again, you know, I go, that's what I should be eating. Fruit and nuts. Yep. Everything else, you will find eventually you'll become so sensitive in your body that you'll start feeling that most other things cause your body some difficulties. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So even though I suggested the experiment of doing without dessert for 1 month, another way you can approach it is to
Eat dessert for a
eat
month
dessert for a month.
and see
and
how you feel.
Feel yourself. What do I feel when I long for it? You know, what don't I want to feel is actually
Yes.
when I long for it.
Yeah.
And then what do I feel after I've had it, physically and emotionally?
Yeah.
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 That's a really good approach with any addiction.
Yes, and I would have noticed I feel satisfied. And then I asked myself, well, why am I not satisfied before?
Yeah.
And I need to
That's
go
right.
deeper into that.
Yeah.
And what is satisfied? You need to be a bit more
Cup of teas are like that in
refined.
England, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comfort is comfort,
Yeah.
driving comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to have a comfortable bed, but you're okay having a cup of tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
To compensate for the beds, you reckon?
Maybe to compensate for the beds, yeah. For unhappy you feel generally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, something we notice here is there is a sort of, well, everywhere we go, actually, there's a focus on food, you know, like at home we're trying to train people to not worry about food so much, you know, like my dinner is this. I get I get what's called a smorgasbord. But what that is basically just a carrot, you know, half a lettuce, cucumber, sprouts, all not dressed or anything, all put in different things in one bowl, but in different parts of the bowl. And the reason, and nuts, I love nuts as well. Mary and I, our main food is probably fruit, because breakfast and lunch, fruit and nuts. Dinner for me is this smorgasbord, right? And what I like about it is that you come away from it feeling good in your body. And what I'm finding is, like last Sunday, we got some ice cream. You have some stuff here called Swedish glaze.
Yes.
which is a
yes.
vegan ice cream.
I'm
So we
familiar
thought,
with
try
it.
that, right? The next day I felt so sick. I can't recommend it, right? It's because I felt so bad the next day from eating it, you know. There are some things that I don't feel bad about the next day, even if it's not those things. And those ones I will continue. But anything that feels bad the next day, it's no good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes too, I find with food that there's a lot of artificialness to food, even stuff that's vegan. Many times there's a lot of artificialness to it, and it doesn't feel good either after you've eaten it. And also with vegan now, they're putting a lot of chemicals in stuff as well, and that always feels very bad when you eat it. So the main reason why you would choose the right food is because you love yourself. So when you choose food that if you ate it regularly, it would result in a worse condition in your body, you don't love yourself enough yet. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes, yes.
So if I'm choosing to eat, like, you know, if I was choosing to eat McDonald's every day, I don't love myself yet. It's one thing to have some chips or something once a month or something, but if you're doing it every day, you obviously don't love yourself yet. If you need dessert every day, you don't love yourself yet.
Okay. Thank you.
And you'll find when you do love yourself, you won't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes
Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. Yeah.
We should finish.
No worries, guys. Well, we need to finish because we've got a short period of time now to pack up. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
And we will see some of you in a fortnight or 3 weeks' time in Portugal.
In Portugal.
Others of you we'll see in probably 1 year's time
Yeah.
in either Portugal, France, or Germany.
Or if you come to Australia and
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.